Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene was again targeted in a swatting incident. That's 2 days in a row. She joins us now to talk about her experience and why she's being targeted. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Congresswoman, you have been swatted yet again 2 nights in a row. This is a new term that I have never heard of. Unfortunately, now I have due to the situation you're dealing with. If you could tell us what exactly is going on.
Well, this is something that's new to me too, and it has happened before in the past to people. It's a way for someone to try to get their enemy killed by police. So what happened to me was I woke up just after 1 o'clock in the morning. I heard a doorbell knock at my door. I heard people outside my bedroom window, saw flashlights, and I got out of the bed, got dressed, and I picked up my gun to carry with me to the door because I usually do, especially when I'm not expecting one, and especially in the middle of the night. But something told me to put my gun down, and I did not take my gun with me to the door. And so when I went through my foyer and went to the front door where we have windows, I could see police out on the front porch, and they were tactically prepared for a very serious situation, guns drawn, and they were prepared to come in the house. When I opened the door and I was very confused and kind of scared about what was going on, I asked them what was happening, and they said that someone had called 911 and reported that someone had been shot inside my house and that there were children inside, and there was potential for more violence like suicide or murder. And I said, no, none of that's happened here. I was sound asleep. I asked them, I said, you want to please come in my house? You can look around. I said, but actually I'm really scared over what's going on. And then they realized what was happening, and they said, yeah, I think you got swatted. And so what that is someone wanted to get me killed. They wanted to send the police to my house into a situation where they thought there was murder happening, in hopes that they would kill me, in hopes the police would kill me or someone else in my home. So what we have found out since then is the person that has done it is angry at me for the legislation that I've introduced, Protect Children's Innocence Act. And it's a bill to stop these transgender surgeries, hormones, puberty blockers, castration, mastectomies, hysterectomies on anyone under 18. It's a very important bill. It's a bill that we need to pass. We need to protect kids and allow them to grow up before they make these life-altering decisions that can never be undone. And that's what I've done. I've taken a strong stance in saying we need to protect kids. But whoever is doing this to me, they are for the practice. They call themselves a child trans activist. They're not a child themselves, but they want to protect this industry that is for profit, profiting off of genital mutilation of children. And it's sick and it's disgusting, but this is who the left is, and they're willing to get me killed for it. Well, last night I got swatted again. They did the exact same thing, tried to pretend something's happening at my house and sent the police to my house. But I have to tell you, my local police are fantastic. They are on the ball, and they definitely know what's happening now. So last night was a total different experience than it was the night before.
Republicans seem to always have to do the rounds of denouncing acts of violence. Have you seen the same level of outrage from your Democratic colleagues?
No, they're not outraged at all. I don't think they've said one single thing. They probably are happy for it happening to me. You see, the media is complicit in this as well. The mainstream media is actually probably causing me to be a target with their horrible headlines and the lies they tell about me on television. I know there's one headline out today, and I don't know which network it is, if it's MSNBC or NBC. I need to find out. But they're saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is targeting trans kids, which is such a horrible lie. I'm actually trying to protect children, protect them from making a decision that they cannot undo, a permanent decision that will change their body for the rest of their life, make it to where they can't have children later in life, and probably will be a decision they'll regret, because there are so many of these D-trans 18, 19, young 20-year-olds that are coming out and saying that they wish someone had stopped what was happening to them, wish someone had protected them and not allowed them to go through the surgeries they went through, the hormones that have changed their voices forever, puberty blockers that will give them lifelong problems like low bone density and chemical castration. These are serious things, but the mainstream media, the way they lie about me, they are targeting me in such a dangerous way that they may get me killed. And here's the reality. Freedom of press is a wonderful thing in America, but freedom of press is not the freedom to lie. And that is what they have done about me. And I really should look into it, because it's coming to a point where I may start having to sue them for what they're causing people to think about me, because it's absolute lies, absolute lies. I'm tired of it. My family's tired of it. Our district is tired of it, and it should never be happening in the first place.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
The Department of Homeland Security announced it has officially put an end to the controversial Disinformation Governance Board. This is months after the DHS paused the board amid widespread concern that it would be weaponized against dissenting voices and become a tool for government censorship. The DHS decided to terminate the board because the Homeland Security Advisory Council determined that there is no need for a disinformation board. Republican lawmakers had raised concerns back in April that the board would be used to police free speech and silence opposing political views. In a letter, Senator Josh Hawley said that the board is almost certainly unconstitutional, and that it can only be assumed that the sole purpose of this new Disinformation Governance Board will be to marshal the power of the federal government to censor conservative and dissenting speech. In yesterday's statement announcing the termination, the DHS said that it will continue to address threats that undermine U.S. security while following the law, upholding civil liberties, and promoting transparency. The Department of Commerce today released revised GDP data from the second quarter. Consumer spending has increased, but the economy is still shrinking. This as recent surveys reveal that many companies are prepared to slash jobs. Some economists tell us this is only the beginning. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports.
GDP, or gross domestic product data, shows there was a 0.6% drop in productivity for the second quarter. The initial analysis indicated a 0.9% decrease.
Now, the negative print comes from inventories, and in particular, lower investment in inventories. The good news is that consumer spending continues to hold up, and hold up quite nicely. 2/3 of economic output is tied to consumer spending.
First-time unemployment claims dropped below 250,000 last week, a positive sign for the labor market. But the labor force participation is still considerably low, meaning people who are able to work aren't working. Author and economist Robert Janetsky explains.
We should have maybe 9% more people working at this time. So it's a very disturbing thing, because apparently there are a lot of people getting away with not working, even though they're in the working age population. More often than not, it tends to be because they can get enough government payments that they don't really have to work.
Labor force participation is much lower than it was pre-pandemic. The workforce is roughly 2 million workers short, and companies are planning for job cuts. A recent survey reveals that half of the 700 executives who were asked say they plan to slash jobs. Economists say this is because businesses are planning ahead for aggressive interest rates from the Fed.
When business drops, you need to cut costs to keep pace with that. And oftentimes, what those costs that get cut, it tends to be payroll.
The Federal Reserve has raised interest rates 4 times to tame inflation. But it's only the beginning. Janetsky tells me he expects to see weak economic conditions until early next year.
And they could be very, very serious. At this point, we just don't know. But there are a number of indicators that I'm looking at that suggest that the economy has been weakened very significantly, especially from recent legislation that has undermined a strong, healthy, growing economy. There was the Chips for America in July, and then there was the reduced inflation, and then there was the basic move that the president just made to tell people who were in debt for student loans they don't have to pay those debts. These are all moves that basically shift resources around in the economy from one place to another. And unfortunately, they're shifting those resources from areas that were productive into areas that are less productive. And that can create real serious problems for an economy. These are moves of someone trying to basically harm the economy. And unfortunately, I'm afraid it's showing signs of being effective.
The Fed is expected to continue to hike interest rates, and it's expected that we won't see the true effect of the Federal Reserve's response until the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.